Mercedes are one of the teams who did not have the testing weekend they were looking for. While the brand new W14 looks very cool, it does not appear to be as fast or reliable as Mercedes had hoped. At least, that's what we're told. We have seen Mercedes sandbagging in the past and then win the title. Could Mercedes actually have a faster car than they say? And if not, do they have upgrades coming to make the car faster? Let's take a look. The preseason testing in Bahrain was the first time we got to see the W14 on the track and flying around corners. It was a big 3 days for Mercedes as they hoped this car would right the wrongs of the W13 and give George Russell and Lewis Hamilton a car that could help them challenge for the driver's title. But preseason testing did not really go to plan for Mercedes. Day 1 was difficult as the car did not look that fast, even if the drivers were more comfortable than they were in testing last year. Day 2 was a difficult one for the Silver Arrows, even if they had a positive result on Day 3. Lewis Hamilton was able to put in the second fastest lap in all of testing, but this came the day after George Russell had to climb out of the broken down Mercedes. The issue that caused George to stop the car on track was believed to be a hydraulic issue. It left him unable to change gear or use power steering, and so there was no way Russell could have safely brought the car back to the garage. This hydraulic issue is certainly not the only talking point of the new W14 car. Mercedes have bravely decided to stick with the no sidepod design that, well, didn't really work last year. This design has been a big talking point because it is unique on the grid, with other teams opting to go for sidepods similar to Ferrari and Red Bull. There's no way around it really. The zero sidepod design did not work last year. Mercedes had one of their slowest cars in a decade, as well as the car being incredibly uncomfortable to drive. So why the hell have they decided to stick with the design? Well, it's mainly because Mercedes believe that the issues they had with the car last year were nothing to do with the no sidepod design. They also fear that starting again would leave the team even slower than if they stuck with the zero sidepods design. But how confident can Mercedes be in their design if they seriously considered Plan B? The rumours are that Mercedes have seen their car be slow in testing and have a backup plan in place. Supposedly, the Plan B is for the Mercedes to go to a similar design to the Ferrari. If Mercedes were to go to the Ferrari design for sidepods, they would just be doing what most of the grid has done this year. Ferrari had a fast car last year with their sidepod design. The Scuderia struggled because of poor engine reliability and puzzling strategy choices. Their sidepods were actually pretty good, and you can tell it was a smart design because most of the grid has gone for similar designs on their car this year. Considering Mercedes aren't sure how fast their car can be with the zero sidepod design, it is smarter than to have a backup. However, the drivers have been clear that rumours are just rumours. Lewis Hamilton was actually asked about whether Mercedes have a plan B for the car. He said, "I saw people talking about a plan B. There isn't one. It's complete rubbish," Hamilton added. Ultimately, we're living in a time of cost cap. To rebuild and redo the design of a car, you have to go back to square one, and we don't have time in a season to do that. The cost cap seems to be the issue with Mercedes having a plan B. I mean, it was kind of the point of the cost cap, to force teams to be incredibly efficient with the design process and level the playing field. In the past, Mercedes might have been able to have the Ferrari sidepods as a backup plan that they could bring in between races. But with the cost cap, this is not possible. This could actually be a blessing in disguise. When Hamilton was asked about Plan B, he also said, "We'll continue to evolve and build this car and try to push it to its absolute limit. I know I've got the best team behind me to close the gap, and it's just finding that performance as fast as we can." Well, one of the benefits for Mercedes to stick with the current design is that they already have a base to build from. Mercedes believe that they fixed some of the major issues the car had last year, and what is exciting for Mercedes fans is that the team is bringing in some major upgrades. Mercedes fans desperately need some good news after testing, so they've got to be thrilled to hear that their team are planning to bring a bodywork update to the car. Despite the rumours, this will not include any major changes to the sidepod design. Mercedes technical director Mike Elliott spoke about the update with Ted Kravitz. Elliott said, "There's bodywork coming and it will look different. It won't look like someone else's, it will look like an evolution of ours. That's on its way." You can understand Elliott being pretty quiet about exactly what the update would bring. It would be pretty embarrassing to give away what your upgrades are going to be weeks before installing it onto the car. Elliott sounded pretty confident with the upgrades that are coming, adding, "Competition-wise, hopefully we're back with the new upgrades. But I think we have to be humble. We have to remember we've got good competition. If we made a step forward and get closer to the front, then we're back in it." So actually, could Mercedes be quicker than you think? I mean, Elliott certainly seems a lot more confident about the Mercedes than their drivers. Lewis Hamilton has said that Mercedes will have a difficult start to the season. Hamilton said Mercedes are not where we wanted to start the season. He added, "I know from the moment I drove the car where we were and the challenges we were facing." George Russell had similar comments, saying, "It's going to be a challenging weekend if we want to fight for victory." It doesn't really sound like Mercedes will be in for a good start if you take a look at what the drivers have said. They will be the ones who really know the car, so this is quite the negative sign for Mercedes. Listen, this might sound a little bit crazy, but the drivers not being confident could be a good sign for Mercedes fans, particularly those fans who remember the dominant years of the hybrid era. If you haven't heard the term sandbagging before, you probably haven't been following Formula 1 testing in the past, particularly the years where Mercedes were dominating the championship. Sandbagging is when a team purposefully hides how quick their car is before the season starts. The idea is that sandbags make the car slower on purpose before the car gets to full speed once the season starts. Obviously, Mercedes haven't actually put real sandbags in their cars. I imagine it'd be tough getting sand out of the tiny cockpit in the car. This is certainly not the first time that we've seen Mercedes struggle in testing. In 2017, Ferrari looked by far the fastest on the grid, with Mercedes over a second behind. But just a couple of weeks later, Mercedes were qualifying in front of Ferrari, and the Silver Arrows would win both championships. 2018 and 2019 were incredibly similar. 2019 was some of the most blatant sandbagging we've seen from Mercedes. Ferrari were by far the fastest car, over one lap as well as on the long runs. After testing, Mercedes claimed they were half a second slower than Ferrari and would struggle to close the gap. Despite this supposed half a second gap, Mercedes locked out the front row in the first race and finished each of the first 5 races as first and second. Mercedes would go on to win another title. We haven't seen Mercedes sandbagging much since 2019, although people thought Mercedes was sandbagging in testing last year. In fact, Mercedes sandbagged so well during testing in 2022 that they forgot to take the sandbags out of their car during the season. Mercedes certainly have a history of sandbagging, and so they could potentially be doing it this year. What will give Mercedes fans hope is that the team have not shown the true speed of the car so far, is Toto Wolff's comments. Wolff said, "Red Bull and Ferrari are fast, there's no surprise there. It's difficult to judge, everyone is playing around with fuel loads and hiding on engine modes. We're still hiding a little bit. You need to wait for the 3 days running and also when the soft tyres come on." Wow, Toto Wolff actually admitted that Mercedes are holding some of their pace back so far. That's got to be exciting to hear. This could really change the fortunes of Mercedes' year if they are truly holding back on performance. Of course, we don't know how much Mercedes are holding back. While it is great for Mercedes fans that the team is holding back some pace, every team on the grid is holding back some pace. Wolff mentioned that in his comments. All of the cars will be faster on race weekend than in testing, and we don't know exactly how much more pace Mercedes can get out of this car. There is no hiding the hydraulic issue Mercedes had in testing, and so we'll have to wait until the season starts to see whether this is another classic Mercedes sandbagging in pre-season testing. So what do you think? Are Mercedes sandbagging in testing? And will they have a much faster car when the season starts? How big of an impact will their bodywork upgrade have? Why not put your thoughts in the comments below? While you're down there, why not hit the like button and subscribe? Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.